When it comes to weird laws in history, you'll be shocked to find out which ones are still technically enforceable. No drinking in pubs? No pies on Christmas? We've got it all today, everybody. So have you ever broken the law? Ever gotten a ticket? The worst I've ever had is a parking ticket, so let me know your worst in the comments and let's see if you've broken one without knowing. So often cited as one of the UK's more unusual laws, it is in fact illegal to be drunk as a skunk on licensed premises. Section 12 of the Licensing Act of 1872 states every person found drunk in any highway or other public place, whether a building or not, or on any licensed premises, shall be liable to a penalty. But it's not just the pub clientele that might be breaking the law. Under the Metropolitan Police Act of 1839, it is illegal for the keeper of a public house to permit drunkenness on premises. Yet any pub goer could swear they see that particular law being broken by millions of people each week. The act was amended in 1988 to extend this prohibition to all public places, pubs, clubs, and even private homes if booze is being sold there. So it's still technically very much a law, but I think it only really gets enforced if folks are truly sloshed or a danger to themselves or others. I doubt just having a single drink at a pub is gonna land you behind bars. But hey, break this one at your own risk. Turns out in 2009, somebody by the name of Godfrey Blackland fell foul of the 1872 Licensing Act when he was spotted by police riding bareback on a road in Newcastle. He was pretty far gone, and well, it's illegal to be drunk as a skunk while in charge of a horse, cattle, or steam engine. Now, although he claimed that he only had a couple of cans and his horse needed some exercise, he was slapped with a fine of £150. I don't want to convert that. In 1644, Oliver Cromwell and his holy cronies banned the consumption of pies on the grounds that they, were a subject of Catholic idolism. Apparently the law was never repealed, so pull the blinds before you break out the pies this Christmas. Medieval England had this law banning the consumption of pies on Christmas Day because it was a pagan tradition. There was actually a ban on any pagan form of pleasure, celebrations, and foods that were associated with the holiday. We're talking pies, turkey, even Christmas ale. Although not enforced today, the law is still technically in effect in the UK. Bonkers. Alright, here's a doozy. Every man between 14 and 40 years old must do archery practice for 1 hour after church every Sunday. So yes, there was this law on the statute book, passed by King Henry VIII back in 1515, to the practice that all able-bodied men must carry out archery practice on Sundays. Now this sort of antiquated legislation may be good for a small laugh, but it does convey the impression that Britain is somehow stuck in the past. Well, on June 11th of 2010, the Reverend Mary Edwards of the village of Collingburn in the UK demanded that all members of her parish report to the village recreation ground for archery practice, as required by this medieval law that's never been repealed. She's like, oh, it's this law from sometime in the Middle Ages, and I can call all the men, but I've extended it to all people in the parish to archery practice. Yet nobody showed up. Another weird UK law states that it's illegal to walk along a pavement while carrying a plank of wood. So introduced in medieval times through the Metropolitan Police Act that I referenced earlier, this law thankfully provides some exceptions. So it's okay to carry a plank of wood, provided that you are loading it onto a vehicle or offloading it. Yeah, so this law dates back to medieval times when carts were often overloaded and the wood would fall off, posing a danger to pedestrians. It was introduced to prevent overloaded carts, leaving planks of wood all over the pavement and creating hazards. So don't create a hazard, folks. Heck, don't be a hazard. It's an offense to handle a salmon and look at all suspicious. So, yeah, if you find yourself holding a salmon, just wandering around, don't be up to any fishy business, because you could get in trouble. To quote the popular TikTok trend, don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. So definitely a worthy contender on this list of really weird old laws is, yeah, handling a salmon, but suspiciously. More amazingly, this law even has its own act, as Section 32 of the Salmon Act, that covers the suspicious handling of fish. Now, yes, this might sound a bit weird, but it does make a bit more sense when I, explain the context of the law. So the Salmon Act was aimed at people selling fish through illegal means, rather than people hanging around dark alleyways clutching a salmon. Picturing someone suspiciously handling a big fish is gonna crack me up for the rest of the night. But hey, if fishing isn't your thing, you might instead want to familiarize yourself with subsection 3 of section 54 in, once again, the Metropolitan Police Act, because this section covers any mischief, misbehavior, and negligence in driving a herd of cattle through town. Yeah, every person who by negligence or ill usage in driving cattle shall cause any mischief to be done by such cattle, or who shall in any way misbehave himself in the driving, care, or management of such cattle, and also every person not being hired or employed to drive such cattle, who shall wantonly and unlawfully pelt, drive, or hunt any such cattle. Long story short, if you are planning on taking your bovine friends for a stroll along the street, it might be wise to think again, because this would be breaking the law. Yeah, according to the Metropolitan Metropolitan Streets Act of 1867, it is illegal to drive any cattle through the streets during the specific hours of 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. unless you have specific permission from the police commissioner. So chat with the cops first. Okay folks, so this is one of the weirdest UK laws, but mostly because of its punishment. Sticking a stamp upside down in absolute defiance on an envelope is considered an attempt to dispose of the monarch in the Treason Felony Act of 1848. And because this is still considered an act of treason, you could technically be sentenced to imprisonment. Now, thankfully, the part of the law that previously stated you would be transported beyond the seas for the term of your natural life has been repealed. Now, we'll leave this law to you to test your own risk. Okay, you got me. Technically, this one is more urban legend than law and has been debunked by the Royal Mail. But Buckingham Palace never has confirmed or denied. So, better to be safe than sorry. And while it is true that the Treason Felony Act of 1848 makes it an offense to carry out any act with the intention of deposing the monarch, the act itself doesn't refer to stamps. It is hard to see how this act could prove a threat to the stability of the country. And hey, once again, according to the Royal Mail, it's perfectly acceptable to put a stamp on upside down. Thankfully, even if you were to commit a treasonous act, you wouldn't really end up under the guillotine, because that got repealed in 1998. Since 1839, it has been against the law for anyone to fly a kite or slide on ice in the street. Perhaps a reasonable safety measure, if a little dated. So yeah, it might be a fun summer pastime, but flying a kite in a public space is actually illegal. Now, honest to goodness, the law reads as follows. Every person who shall fly any kite or play any game to the annoyance of the inhabitants or passengers, or who shall make or use any slide upon ice or snow in any street to the common danger of the passengers, ixnay. So under the same laws, you're actually not allowed to erect a washing line across any street either. Look, I grew up sledding on hills constantly, so I certainly hope this law isn't actually enforced anywhere, because sledding is such a fun, classic winter activity. Yeah, it's a little dangerous, my tailbone's never gonna forget it, but a little dangerous, healthy for brain development. Trust me, or not. Now on the other hand, the kite ban makes plenty of sense when you think about power lines. One wrong move and zap. Or also just like the littering when a kite gets caught and can't be retrieved. Yeah, no. Get rid of it. So it is also illegal to sing any profane or obscene song or ballad in any street, or to willfully and wantonly disturb people by ringing their doorbells or knocking at their doors. Yeah, good luck enforcing that one on Halloween. So I checked, it's technically also against the law here in Canada, but I'm not about to go tell any of the cops I see on the street that fact. Now granted, I can see how this law is helpful and useful. Knock knock run, ding dong ditch. It's kind of a prank that's so old that historians believe it dates to like the 19th century England. It is a name believed to come from an old British poem about an angry baker giving a youngster, a clout for breaking a window. But the game, in which young folks knock on somebody's front door, then run away before it can be answered, can lead to serious repercussions for both householders and, the folks who play them. It's annoying and dangerous, so having a punishment in place for those who dare to try, yeah, that's a good idea. Turns out it's against the law to enter any House of Parliament with weapons or armor. So MPs are gonna have to rely on their sharp tongues for defense since it's, illegal. Why is this illegal? Well, let's go back in time, folks. King Edward had a problem. He was kind of, butting heads with his nobles, who disapproved of his favorite, the low-born Piers Gaveston, so much that they refused to attend Parliament when Piers was there. But rather than just staying at home, the earls raised a lot of armies and set up camp outside London. Now, by one point, Edward had seriously upset too many nobles, and the prospect of an armed rebellion had made Parliament a very dangerous place for the king. At one point, a statute ordered that every man shall come to Parliament without all force and armor, and those who did not were punished, according to our laws and usages of our realm. Well, fast forward a couple of years, Thomas, the second Earl of Lancaster, was accused by the King's Council of breaking this law, although he was too powerful at this time to be punished. Now, this statute has never been repealed, which means that it is still illegal to enter the Houses of Parliament carrying weapons or wearing armor. Guess they'll never host a Ren Fair there. And finally for today, whales and sturgeons were valuable catches in the Middle Ages, and once again, we see the monarchy feeling less than generous. The 1322 statute Prerogativa Regis established that the king, or queen, shall have throughout the realm whales and great sturgeons taken in the sea or elsewhere within the realm. So this rule is still in force, which means that any whales or sturgeon caught or washed up on the shore should technically be offered to the ruling monarch. So in practice, this is rarely the case, but in 2004, a Welsh fisherman diligently complied with the law by offering a sturgeon he had caught to the queen. However, she politely declined the offer. Interestingly enough, the provisions of this statute were expressly protected from repeal by the Wild Creatures and Forest Laws Act of 1971. Oh well, that's it for me once again, folks. I've been Alexa, your resident emo girly. See y'all next time I buzz in over here at Bumblebee.